Hello, great ones. Welcome to the Live and Be Great podcast. I'm your host, Latanya Sampson McDonald. I am a life coach and a registered marriage and family therapist associate. And this podcast was created to motivate, educate, and inspire all to live and be great. On today's episode, I have yet another conference that I did. It's a series called Black Therapists Speak, and it's hosted by a Canadian therapist named Miss Kimberly Cato. During this discussion, we had talked about trauma and the current times and how it is affecting Black people during this time and what do we do as therapists. There's also some information about childhood trauma and how trauma affects the body. It's very impactful, okay, very insightful. I enjoyed being a part of this movement called Black Therapists Speak because it's unique to me because the things that affect my community, being a Black woman, it's not always in the books. It's definitely not in the textbooks. So there's extra work, extra avenues of healing that we have to explore because our experience as Black people in America is unique. Black people anywhere, really. So please enjoy. It is lengthy. I'm also going to leave the description in the box. I'm also going to split it into two parts, so you'll get the first part this week, and then in 2 weeks, you'll get the second part. Okay? All right. Enjoy.
My name is Kimberly Cato, and I'm the registered psychotherapist and CEO of True Roots Counseling Services, where we purpose to come alongside people who are overwhelmed and perhaps blindsided by life altering circumstances and give them tools and strategies designed to help them, you know, transform their trauma into triumph. Really excited for the conversation that I had with Tracy Thompson and Latanya Sampson McDonald, two vibrant, phenomenal Black therapists, one up here in Canada, that's Tracy, and one in the United States, that's Latanya. And they just shared, we had a healthy conversation actually about a myriad of things. So I welcome you and invite you to listen to the length of this conversation. Um, be sure to, you know, like and subscribe and ring the bell. But even beyond just that, be sure to take notes and pay attention to the brilliance and the wisdom that they impart together. Uh, Not just, you know, the whole purpose of the Black Therapists Speak is to give tools and strategies to people to deal with the COVID and the anti-Black racism and the myriad and multitude of levels of oppression that Black people are facing. We had a really interesting conversation about mental health in the Black community, and I just welcome you to take notes and to really dig in to this conversation so that you're left with the tools and the skills and the strategies you need to face the things you encounter on an everyday basis. Join me, join us in exploring what mental health looks like in the Black community. Thank you so much. Oh, ring the bell, subscribe. Share this with other therapists, other people of color, other people that you know who may be in need of support. Share it. Bye. Hey, can you do me a favor? Can you ring the bell? Can you subscribe to this channel? Can you share this message with friends and family? Let them know. Black therapists speak. Bye now. Hi, y'all. Thank you so much for stopping in. And um, I'm really delighted to have both of you here today and to discuss, well, essentially, Black Therapists Speak. This is a platform that I really want to showcase the work that Black therapists are doing all over. And so I really appreciate the two of you responding to my call for Black therapists. So why don't we just start with, and I'll just kind of go in order of who appears on my screen, though I'm sure it may be different on yours. But Tracy, could you just tell us a little bit about who you are and what prompted you to respond to my request for Black therapists to speak?
Well, initially, I've been a family counselor, just centralized in children and families for the last 15 years. I've primarily spent a lot of my time with youth services regarding probation, reintegration, and also education. I have extensive academic experiences with youth in trouble or youth dealing with learning disabilities or mental health issues.
Yeah.
And one of the things that really touched me about your post was the fact that what I'm seeing, or some of the responses community-wise, is that there are a lot of families right now that are hurting. And I felt that it would be really great to talk about the Black perspective or lens through that capacity.
Excellent. Yeah, excellent. Thank you so much for responding. Latoya, dear, same question. What brings you to Black Therapists Speak? And tell us a little bit about who you are and the work that you do.
Okay. Well, I am an associate marriage and family therapist. I have been in the field for about, I want to say 3 or 4 years now. And what I've learned is that a lot of the experiences, a lot of the way we view mental health, it's not in a book when we talk about African Americans and how they experience mental health issues. Like I would always say that our depression doesn't look like everybody else's depression. Our depression looks like I get up and I go to work every day, but I'm gonna come home and I might scream at my family and, vengeance is mine, right? And that's what it looks like. And to normalize that coming from a space, especially as a Black woman, a lot of us have been therapists for the community since we were birthed. Like I was my mother's everything, okay? Yeah. And she was her mother's everything, and back on. So having that experience and being able to bring it to the forefront and meet people where they're at is kind of my mission. And I've worked for the victims of crime in South Central LA. I've worked in Calabasas for, youth that are suicidal and have addiction issues. I've also worked with adults that have addiction issues from Calabasas to South Central. So it's like I have a broad spectrum of different people that I've worked with, as well as right now I work for DCFS and probationary youth as a therapist, and man, the similarities is everything is related to the childhood. Every last thing.
Yeah.
So being able to impact those different communities, but bring them back home to one has been extremely helpful. And what brings me to Black Therapists Speak, is I want to, get validation for myself, but also give validation from what we all feel, and what kind of brought us all into the field is the unspoken, is the what happens in my house stays in my house, is the, oh, just pray it away, oh, they just a little touched, that type of commonality, and not in a shaming way, but in a way to where I could say, I see you, sis, I see you, bro, I understand, now let's come together and try to make this make sense.
Absolutely. Well said. Well said. How do you view what's happening in this era of COVID, and how did that impact the work that you do? Tracy, go ahead. Oh, sorry, Tracy, we can't hear you.
I think right now it's been a bit of a sliding scale, where you find people that are in extreme issues of neglect, also the fact that they've been living a very secluded life.
Yeah.
This seclusion has turned them into people that they no longer recognize.
Yeah.
And you have to talk to them about the state of brokenness that they may be feeling, or the state of decay.
Yeah.
So the brokenness is like, usually something has really declined within their life and they believe that's the problem.
Right.
Or if it comes to a child, the child is the IP, the identified patient.
Yeah.
Then once you get into the family circle, you notice that there's a lot of more festering going on, where there's a lot more breakdown. There is multiple systemic issues that have been ignored and now have turned into a state of disease. And then you're trying to amend these issues because you have to deal with the IP, which is the child, but also the festering situation. So you're putting out multiple fires, right?
Yeah.
And those multiple fires, a lot of times I find that the child feels the blame for, even though that may not be the identified issue that is like engulfing the family unit or engulfing the structure. If it's second generation child living with extended family, because that a lot happens within our communities as well. And just that piece is big too, where, you'll hear, well, we don't really believe in therapy, but we had to do this.
Yeah.
Or, therapy is for rich white people. So we're just doing this because we have to. So just tell me what we have to do and let us get back to our everyday lives, because I have to do this and I have to be here. And then you're trying to tell them, well, you know what? It's not just because of the color of my skin is why I'm helping you. It's because there's an issue. So let's work together. Let's try to find that solution. Solutions come from you. I help you, I'm your navigator, but the solution comes from you. And that's big for them to know, right? Because they feel that I'm here to judge them. And I'm like, I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to help you or aid you with your issue. Help seems like a handout. I'm not here to give you a hand out, but a hand up. So let's do it that way.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you. Latoya? How has COVID impacted you and the work that you do?
It's very difficult because I'm now back to my community. So I feel like Black people used to be having stuff taken away, and especially working with DCFS and probationary kids, they're like, right? I'm used to not having the norm. But from the outside, I think it's an equalizer a little bit. right? As far as having something taken away and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah.
I think the scary part is nobody knows what they're doing and nobody has the right answer.
Yeah.
So that part is also difficult. And as well as with the Black community, I think you're gonna run into people who are tired of having things taken away.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And then you have people that are just used to it and have normalized it.
Yeah.
Like the ones who will protest and the ones that won't.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, or
Yeah.
the ones who will be Democrat or the ones who will be Republican or whatever, the ones that will stay in the hood or the ones that will get an education. It's definitely like other people kind of get to see what we experience basically. You know, especially in the difference in the protests, like, you know, you saw like white people going and with their guns and now I don't want to wear my mask.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you don't see the amount of like control and the brutality as you do with the Black Lives Matter protests. And it's just so interesting. Like, okay, you had something happen to you that you don't want to happen, but you don't understand why people are fighting for their lives. And I think people are waking up, right? With that. I think that's why we do see more white people out there at the Black Lives Matter protests, is because, man, I'm being forced to actually sit and look at it. Versus having that privilege to just it don't affect me, so let me just go on about my day.
That's a really interesting point too, because I what I've noticed with COVID is that work and you know, daily activities were the things that people used to distract them from what's really happening in the world. And once those things were removed, you see you see how people are really not able to adapt to the lack of control and the things being taken away, and the way that they rebel and resist those things. I do see it. There's a cultural response to the taking away of things, and I hear what you mean. About black people they do sit in the two camps, you know, where they're accustomed to things being taken away, and the response to that will be either enough is enough, I'm done with you taking things from me, or there's just this apathy. There's this, you know, what else is new? Right? And you see people fighting to figure it out, and making a way in the midst of this dry space, and then you see others who are really struggling and really fighting, and like Tracy indicated, that it becomes a layered effect in terms of the impact, the traumatic impact of all of this, and that's one of the reasons that I really wanted to do Black Therapists Speak, is so that we can, you know, speak about the things that we can do in the midst of this circumstance and situation that some people would, I mean, everybody needs different things. So if we have a multitude of people speaking about the things that they've done and the things that they've had success at, the things that they've tried, and the things that didn't quite work out so well, then at least that's information that others can reach out to when they're trying to make sense of the madness for themselves.
Right. And when you speak about the layered effect, one of the things I think we usually kind of put to the side as Black therapists is the erosion. The erosion is big. And I feel that a lot of times when the family isn't in a state of decay, we only see the surface level because we're so good at putting on appearances. Okay, we know how to hide our pain and smile and walk through that door and continue our day. And it's hard when somebody of your same ethnicity, same culture comes to you and says, listen, I can see past the guys, we need to deal with the problem. And that is big. Like, I haven't, like, especially because being from Caribbean dialect and you have to speak different dialects comparing to who you have to speak to.
Yeah.
And then them knowing, okay, I was seeing just another Black face with an education stamp, but now she's speaking to me in my dialect.
Yeah.
I can't hide.
Yeah.
I can't hide from the problem because she knows.
Yeah.
She may not have talked to me that way at first, but I say to my clients or families, yeah, I have to talk to you in this tone, but after, when we get to certain points, I will be speaking to you in our dialect if I have to get something through. So understand it's going to come from both angles, and we're going to target the problem, because I'm not the type of therapist that sits on a problem for 2 years. Like, we get down to things in the bulk of a session. We get down to things in the bulk of a conversation on the phone. When I ask you to fill out something, I want to know the truth. I don't want to know the sugar glaze. I want to know what's really going on.
Yeah, yeah. And getting really genuinely to the heart of the matter.
Right.
And that's the interesting, one of the conversations that I've been having is really about therapists, Black therapists, being available to people who are also identifying as Black. And because there's the running conversation that Black people don't access mental health. And I have a theory on that, but I wonder if you can respond to that question. What are your thoughts, Latoya, on the statement that Black people don't access mental health? What do you think might be the reasons as to why? And have you ever encountered this as well?
Yes, it's Latanya, by the way. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. My whole life, it's okay. I used to it, but yes, I've definitely experienced that. Right.
Yeah.
Especially when I worked at a high school as a therapist, and if I see a child that used to be an A student and now they have depression, bring your mom in here. Let me talk to them, right? Yeah. That's usually my go-to, because that's where it stems from. Yeah. And I will get the parents that will say, oh, therapy's for white people, and, just make sure her grades are okay. Like, what do you need to talk to me for? But I know how necessary they need to hear that validation from their parent. So I have to reach the parent. I can't just turn a blind eye to it and be like, well, you're supposed to know better. They don't, because what is an adult in the first place? When we see an adult get angry or frustrated and cuss people out, does that look like an adult, or does that look like a 5-year-old? Right? Yeah. So what I usually do is connect to that 5-year-old that can't hear their daughter's pain or their son's pain over their own, right? The one that needs that validation. See me, or nobody else gonna get seen, right? I have to give that one a voice there. And I've had like clients that were older, domestic violence clients, that needed to, they wanted validation from the abuser, right? Not validation, but closure. Yes, closure from the abuser. Yeah. And I'm like, no, let's go back into your history and find out why you thought that this was okay. Like, who confused that for you? You get what I'm saying? And 9 times out of 10, the history is the same. Oh, my grandmother used to get hit, or my auntie's getting hit right now, or the relationship with my mom. Like, she was very hard on me, or my dad was, he made sure or whatnot. And my view now is different, because I've been able to make the connection for them based off of our culture. And our culture is that slave mentality. I need to beat you into submission, right? Instead of using this part. And they're like, and the first thing I get, but what if I have like a toddler and they can't speak yet and they're about to touch the fire? Okay, I've seen people play with regular babies they don't know and pretend to cry, right?
Yeah.
Grab their hand. Oh, ow, ow, ow. Toddlers immediately start crying, right?
Yeah.
And now you already are starting to allow that brain to prepare itself, right? To start functioning and start learning versus I need to pop you and go on about my day.
Yeah.
Because back then we didn't have time. You're right. We didn't have time as slaves. We didn't have time to process our emotions.
No.
They snatching my children from me and I'll never see them again.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I need to hold on to something, which was religion, to keep going. I gotta hold on to something. Back then they didn't have a choice. You're right. They didn't.
Yeah.
The only choice they had was to survive. But we're also carrying that pain that they didn't get to speak on. Right? And I also say to my clients that if you're a Black person that is aware of what is really going on and what we've been dealing with, all y'all got depression. Every last one of y'all. If you really are looking at that, the fact that we don't sit to process with our kids that for the rest of your life, because you're a Black person, you're going to be treated as less than, even though everything in your body is telling you that you're human and you should be treated as human. And there's nothing you could do about it.
Yeah.
Right? We don't even take the time to process that with our kids, to like sit there and cry about that or anything. We just like, okay, well, go to school, get your job and do right. You know? So having these conversations and relating it back, it helps me with those clients that are like, oh no, we don't need therapy. No, it's not about you needing therapy. It's about your right to assistance. It's your right to heal your bloodline, right? Based off of the trauma that has occurred. Yeah. You have the chance to be the answer with your healing.
Yeah. You're right. Intergenerational trauma is it's so significant. Absolutely. What's your response, Tracy, to mental health in the Black community?
Well, I agree with Latoya, and I also agree with you, Kimberly, is the fact that with intergenerational trauma and post-traumatic stress disorder or post-traumatic slave disorder is what LaTanya was talking about. Sorry, I messed up your name before.
It's okay.
Is a reoccurring issue within both the North American demographic, the Caribbean demographic, and abroad. And I find that especially because Canada seems like a central point where people either stop through or they migrate here or they stay and they have generations of family. I find that a lot of times you're dealing with a parent who was left by another parent, or you're dealing with a loss of a parent, either through the penitentiary system or a death, or an exposure to an illness that they weren't aware of until it was too late because of situational issues within the family line. So all those things lead to, again, that festering that I talked about before, that decay of the family system. But we bounce back, we get up. I got to go to work. My kids got to go to school. I got to get this done. This is more a need. But they don't see the erosion. And the erosion is big. The erosion is big now to the fact that they say that COVID is attacking more of people of color, but how do we see that? How can you put that into means? Well, for example, there are kids of color who are afraid to put on masks. It's an extra barrier, right? I can't associate with my peers if I have on a mask because they associate me to looking like somebody that I'm already fighting not to look like. I don't want to look like that stereotype. I don't want to look like that person that teacher is going to put in the corner. I don't want to look like that person who goes to the office. I don't want to look like that person when the cruiser passes by. He's going to flash his light and look at me first. So there's this added embedded stigma with the events of masks, with the events of COVID, that is a whole different layer that hasn't even been talked about yet. Right? You're subjugating people to the fact that, hey, you're putting on another barrier where we already have multiple barriers that oppress us. And this simple thing where I can't enter a store without a mask, or I can't enter a public space without a mask, is making me feel criminalized in a system that I'm already oppressed in. And these things are big. And we really have to address that as therapists, because I don't even think we'll even realize the shock value to the school age children, because they'll have to grow up with this stigma and this oppression, right? It's very similar to when they started doing studies on black, dark-skinned black girls and black boys, and how the tribal hierarchy of color related in different prospects of their lives. Like, that was big. And we've only grazed the surface on that. So imagine putting the emphasis of physical aesthetics on top of this mask. What is that going to do? How is that going to oppress these children, these people growing up in color, in a world that sees color first?
Very good point. Very good point. Colorism is a huge thing within the community, and it's a huge thing generally speaking. We were talking in another, the September 9th episode, just about those specific layers and how, you know, in white supremacy, that otherism is often, it becomes an internalized racism within the community, because the colorism was born out of the supremacy, the favoritism given to the fair-skinned slave, as opposed to the punishment given to the dark-skinned slave, and the labels attached to them were really ingrained in African American, African Canadian people who were enslaved. And so when you start seeing generations after that colorism still being a thing that we actually hold within the community and hold against one another, it's the internalized racism. It's the Stockholm syndrome. It's the taking on the characteristics and behavior of the oppressor and turning that against one another. And I do see that tremendously as a response to the oppression that we've endured and lived through. And as understanding and looking at mental health within the Black community and our resistance to stepping out to receive it, it is, I think, multi-layered in that the language of mental health has always been used against us. It hasn't worked in the Black individual's favor. In terms of the DSM-4, even a literal diagnosis being ascribed to Black slaves who had the tenacity to want to flee, and this is then criminalized and seen as a mental disorder, as opposed to a realistic desire for somebody who's captured and held against their will. You should want to flee. So because mental health often is being written by and administered by the white population and the oppressor, it was often seen as something for the oppressor, for the white person, and against the Black person. And so there's a resistance sort of ingrained in us not to ascribe to the language and the practices of mental health. And so, but what we need to be doing as a community is looking at the things that we do tribally, culturally, as a community to create safe space, to alleviate and minimize stress, the way we care for one another, the way we love on one another, the way we come together when things are rough. Although we wouldn't call that mental health, it is mental health. It is creating safe space. It is alleviating and de-escalating stress. But I think we need to really work on the language. What's your response to all that, or do you have any?
My response would be, I'm going to take it from a twofold approach, okay? Because I deal with clients that are from the continent, so they've never dealt with slavery. And then I also deal with clients that are originated in either the States by slavery or clients that have migrated from the Caribbean. So it's the dysphoria on 3 different frames. And the dysphoria look when it kind of deal with clients that who've come from the continent and have not dealt with slavery but have dealt with colorism. Their approach to systemics and the pockets within society that don't accept them, especially when it comes to therapy, is very unique. So a lot of times I've dealt with clients who have never seen a Black therapist, don't know that Black therapists exists, and you have to explain to them that this is just like your healing circles. Okay, think of it about your healing circles, and you go to your healer. It's the same type of connection. You have a talk with your healer, and you work out a plan, and then you come to an optimization of how to make that solution. And then you have the people that more generations, and they've been accustomed, but they're still not a part of the main framework. So you explain to them, okay, yes, I understand that you have an appearance in your community that you need to hold up, but we got to get down to these things, because if you don't get down to this, you're going to have a broken glass, and nobody drinks out of a broken glass.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then also with the Caribbean, it's very interesting, because then it's about religion versus culture and societal oppression. And that's a very interesting mix. So taking the fact of, yes, God heals all things, but right now God has led you to this path where you need therapy. How are you going to integrate the word with therapy? Yeah. That is big.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Coming from, as a chaplain, that was always a very interesting dance, the religious aspect of therapy. A very interesting dance indeed. Tanya, what are your thoughts?
My thoughts are, and it's quite interesting that you guys are based in Canada. I believe I was born in Canada, but by way of my parents being from Guyana, the Caribbean, but I live in America, and I live my life as I never knew what to call myself, because people just assume I'm African American, and I'm like, I'm Canadian. So what am I? Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
The labels, and basically you like you guys talked about, Tracy talked about dialect, right? And the language that you speak. Yeah. I've learned that it is okay to meet everybody where they're at, right? Yeah. And we don't have to hold on to the things that are so-called true of the culture, because a lot of the things that we hold tight to the culture don't come from our culture. Like we talked about earlier, only white people go to therapy. I remember I even talked about this with a gang member that I'm counseling, and talked about the whole no snitching thing, right? And I'm like, you really think that came from our community? Look at what happens when these former police officers like blow the whistle. What happens? right? Like they get fired. You see what I'm saying? Faster than anybody that committed an actual crime.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when we see, you know, the police officer, you know, shooting an unarmed Black person, a lot of times we do see that, oh, we're just going to transfer you. And then we look at their history and they got a whole history of doing the same thing, of excessive force. They have that history. So there's a lot of things that are placed in our community that we have to start to unveil and let them know that just because it's white doesn't mean it's right. Right. And there's certain situations, there's certain things, a certain aspect that like America kind of thrives off of us being broken and staying broken. So it's certain things that we've glorified that they push on us, right, to stay broken. So I always have to relate it back to myself, right? And humanize that and show that, okay, I can change, I can wake up, so can you, but let's bring it to where you understand it, right? Like even when I always have the conversation about, okay, stop hitting your kids or whatnot, I always, okay, tell me that story when you remember that whooping, right? Because everybody remembers it. That story that you 70 years old, still remember that time when it was a bit too much for you. And like, we also got to be honest with ourselves. When you hit, it's a release you get out of there, right? And I also tell the parents, like, a lot of times to even strike pain, to inflict pain, you got to be in a sense of rage and anger, right? So you not only hitting them because of the shoes are out of place, but you hitting them because you hate your job, can't stand your spouse, you're not doing what you want to do, and also you can't hit back the person that abused you in your childhood, right? So that release comes from there, and that's not on your child. Your child didn't ask to be here. And then sometimes they say, well, I'm working 2 jobs, and I'm like, wait a minute. If you're a Black person, you knew how this world was before you brought your child into it. So how dare you blame them because you gotta work hard, right? You see what I'm saying? And because nobody normalized or let them weep about the pain of that, they're not finna hear their child say anything. You see what I'm saying? So I always try to connect it back to there, even with people who are not in our community. Right? And that's another big lie, because they think only Black people hit their kids. No, that's not true. It's not true. And one of the scariest things is that we've been all fed this lie of what the American dream is, right? Even other countries have been fed the lie of the American dream. Get the job, get the degree, get the spouse, get the house, get the car, right? And you're gonna be happy. Why do you see a CEO of a company jump off the 10th story and kill themselves? Right? Because I think that's the scariest form of depression. Is that, wait, you told me that if I have all this stuff, I'll be happy. But I'm not, right? And it has to go someplace. And I think that's also, like, this is like a sidebar. I think the psychological aspect and the erosion and the decay, like you guys were talking about, was also missing from the civil rights movement, right? They didn't connect that part. Like, you told me, right? Go sit in at these protests, be nonviolent, let white people spit in my face, hold me down, kick me down. Yet, when I come home, if my room ain't clean, you ready to knock my head off. So the anger has to go somewhere. And a lot of times it's on to our children and it's on to our families. Because we've been taught, oh, just pray about it, just push through, just hold on, but not heal from it. We can't say, okay, this person hit me, and then, all right, put them in jail, and you do nothing. How do you have to heal from that pain, or that whatever happened will look for resentment, and somebody has to pay for it.
It's interesting because it sort of ties back to what Tracy was saying a little earlier about post-traumatic slave syndrome. Dr. Joy DeGruy talks a lot about just generational pain and things that come from generation to generation, and that much of the reason why we and it's one of the things that I resist. But when they talk about black on black crime, which is a misnomer because it doesn't matter where you are. There's white on white crime. There's Asian crime. There's like the crime is inflicted against the one with whom you're that lies within your community. So if your neighbor has things and you want those things or need those things, and your neighbor is of the same color as you, that's the white on white crime, the black on black crime, whatever the case may be. But that's just an aside. Because the intergenerational pain and trauma, it's really born out of whoever is put that fire in me, the one who is actually oppressing me, they're the powerful. I cannot exercise my anger and frustration against them. So I come home and the neighbor rides by, on a bike that I want for my kid, or says something that disrespects me. And I'm living a life with this oppressor's foot on my neck day in and day out, and I cannot say anything to them. But you who are in my community and you disrespect me, now respect becomes a currency for which I will die for. And so, killing and harming those who show you that disrespect, who are within your community and not the actual one to whom or with whom you're angry, that's where the behavior comes from. There's a lineage and a history to it, in much the same way as you're talking about the physical punishment of children. And when you hit your child, it's not the child that is standing behind that slap or whatever. There's a whole history behind that. And it can get out of hand far too quickly, which is why it's not good. We need to be using the communication. We need to be talking with the individual. We need to be talking, number one, with ourselves and understanding the history of trauma that is bringing us to this place where our instinct is to act out violently. That aggression is not good. It's not good, and we need to understand what it's born out of so that we can get a handle on that. Tracy, you sent a PowerPoint, and you were going to be talking about the PowerPoint. I'm assuming. Did you want to bring that up here and talk through it?
Well, yes, because we've touched a lot on what the PowerPoint is about. Okay. So I think it will bring a lot more understanding to viewers if we see some of the things that we're talking about, because I've given some examples when it deals with the stress and how it deals with the brain. So let's get into some of that.
Okay. Let me pull this up. Oops. So tell me what you would like me to do and how you'd like me to. I'm going to move us. Can you see me move us? Or is there somebody on my screen that I'm moving at me?
I don't see you.
I just see you, but now I see the PowerPoint in the corner.
Okay,
so.
I see. Whenever Tracy talks, we'll see her.
Okay.
So basically, the reason why I chose an arrow is because a lot of times we feel that when we have issues with our youth as children in the family, it's just a one directional approach, but we don't see as a community that the issue actually tears into two.
Yeah.
So there's the Black approach and then there's the white approach.
Excellent.
So let's go into the second slide.
Okay.
So basically what's really been going on is the fact that we've been talking about as Therapists United today about our caseloads, our outlets, the approaches within our families, our friends, and also community members. But what are the kids actually hearing? What are the kids actually feeling? What are they actually getting to? What is their feedback from the things that they're taking in on a daily? And I think that's the thing that we need to really subscribe to as therapists right now, and take their individual approach and make it more broadband, so we as therapists can learn from their experiences.
Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, you just here. Analysis of the social problem. Okay.
Right. So I like the fact, one of the reasons why I did reach out to you, Kimberly, is because I like the fact that you talked about George Floyd.
Yeah.
But we also are forgetting the narrative that became before him.
Absolutely.
He is the focal point, but there are many lives and many bloodstains of families that lost an individual or a loved one or someone a part of their community. And children have been hearing this silent cry, and now it's an outward cry. And I think right now we have to talk about the balancing, okay? And we've talked about the erosion, but how do we heal that? We heal that through balancing. We heal that by applying tools. We heal that by giving an ear to listen, a shoulder to cry, an outlet to speak. Sometimes it's just the company we keep, right? To letting them know that, yes, you can be heard. And then also too, we talked about the masks and the fact that they are a silent barrier that is applying a lot of social pressure on children who want to be seen for their abilities and not for the color of their skin. So there are so many demographics to this problem where we're looking at these things, but how do we target them all when we know as therapists we're a part of a healing capacity, but because ourselves we are also oppressed. So we're the oppressed helping the oppressed, and this is big. And a lot of times we talk about this, but we don't know how to amend it. So I think especially with your YouTube series and us just opening the gateways of communication, we should come to viable solutions that work, solutions that are going to help us as therapists help one another. Because we are also the silent, oppressed. And we have to talk about the things that we are facing.
Absolutely.
Because we do leave conversations and sessions with post-traumatic stress.
Absolutely.
And this is not being approached. So how do we combat that? How do we get through this course of suffering, through this pandemic? Where are our resources to amend the oppressed? And this is big.
That's a huge point. I was reading an article on Wednesday about that, about the increase of demand on mental health support and the demand on mental health workers, the therapists, and just how it's astronomical right now. And it's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as people rest in the knowledge that, wait a minute, this thing I'm feeling isn't actually going away. I need to talk to somebody. And because we know that trauma and stress, they have a long window. And so the question really was, what are the healthcare professionals? What are the therapists? What's in their toolbox to assist them with burnout, with vicarious trauma, with those things, being that ear and that bearing that silent witness to the pain and trauma of a multitude of people. You need an outlet. And so perhaps when we finish going through the PowerPoint, we can discuss amongst us what our outlet, what options we are exploring to alleviate the burden of the trauma we're enduring on a regular in helping the clients. This was a really good point.
So just like you led into the point that I was talking about is how toxic is stress. So imagine you have a child, but let's now paint that child a Black child. So you have stress in a family before COVID, and now you have stress in a family during COVID.
Yeah.
That stress is magnified to the 10th power.
Yeah.
It weakens the child's development. It weakens their sense of high alert. They're always on alert. They feel unstable. And then this now leads into systemic issues where they're unbalanced for learning.
Yeah.
They're unbalanced in behavior.
Yeah.
They're constantly in fight and flight.
Yeah.
And as you can see, we have the diagram of the normal brain and what it looks like, and the normal firing. If you could go back to the next one.
Here we go.
So you see the normal firing.
Sorry.
That's okay. So you see the normal firing.
Yeah.
And then you see a brain affected by toxic stress.
Yes.
So this is embedded stress. This is stress that's already been impacted within the cell structure of a child. So this is somebody who's gone through post-traumatic stress disorder and then now is facing another traumatic event.
Yes.
So it's the fact that there are less healthy firing connections within the brain.
Yeah.
So this child is suffering on such a traumatic level, but it's not being seen because they're not already being heard.
Yes, yes.
And that's the biggest issue right now.
Yes.
How do we fix these issues?
Yeah.
How do we deal with these problems?
Yeah. Yeah. Invisibility, huge. Invisibility and silence, huge. Absolutely.
Next. So again, like I was speaking about stress, I'm also talking about the nervous system and the vagus nerve. And the fact that a lot of times we don't think that the stress that we feel is affecting us.
Yeah.
But it is.
Absolutely.
It's the fact that the body is not able to navigate as quickly as it used to.
Yeah.
Movements are decline. Alertness is on an ultimate high.
Yeah.
The fight, flight, and freeze. I'm seeing this with a lot of children that I deal with, that the fact that they are always in this motion, and I have to teach them or talk to them about being, instead of being reactive, how to be responsive.
Yeah.
So I have to go back to basic amends of what they were supposed to learn while they were younger children.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the fact that I have to now fix this thing because they're always in a state of fight. They're always in a state of freeze.
Yeah.
They're always in a state of fight.
Yeah.
So how do you become responsive after that? If all you know is, hey, if I hear a loud sound, I need to get up and run.
Yeah.
If I hear a bang, I need to get duck.
Yeah. Yeah.
If something crashes, I gotta go.
Yeah.
So it's big and it's taxing, especially because if it's been normalized for so long, how do you amend an issue that's so embedded within the system?
Yes, absolutely.
And it's the fact that they don't know how to be responsive from reactive or rest and digest.
Yeah.
These are issues. These are things that we have to look at. These are things that parents need to understand.
Yeah.
The parents need to understand that's the reason why when Black therapists see Black children, they take that extra hand and they give them the resources that they know that sometimes they cannot afford, but
Yeah.
need so
Yeah.
direly.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because you're battling stuff that you might be able to look on the surface and see certain behaviors, but that's just the surface. Underneath is a heightened and like a hyper vigilant system that is responding in a reactionary way to triggers and traumas and things that we don't see as triggers and traumas. You know, a simple the dropping of a pen on a table, a sudden loud noise, or a slammed door from the wind. Like I have one of my bedrooms. If the window's open, the door slams, and you can just see the sudden reactionary response to a slammed door, and it sets off an entire physiological reaction that is really responding not to the slammed door, but to an internalized, unaddressed issue of trauma. And we need to have, number one, the language for that, and number two, an understanding of how to address that in our children and, dare I say, in ourselves. Because as much as this is applicable and speaking specifically about the children, it really is a truth for an adult as well. Because if this child grows up, that child will still have that activated vagus nervous system that they don't have tools to address. So oftentimes I work with adults who function very much like the children that I started out my practice with.
The Live and Be Great podcast will be airing every other Friday. If you have truly enjoyed this podcast, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for giving Live and Be Great a chance. Please feel free to share, like, give a review, subscribe on whichever platform that you're listening to right now, on iTunes or Apple Podcast, Spotify, Anchor, as well as Google Play. The Live and Be Great podcast is strictly crowdfunded, so if you are interested in becoming a supporter, you can click the link in the description, or you can go to liveandbegreat.com and scroll to the bottom and donate to the Live and Be Great podcast today, so I can continue to give you good and motivational content. Thank you all for listening, and don't forget to give yourself permission to live and be great.